Hello, friends. I'm your host, Dave Layton, and welcome to Signs of Our Time, discovering America's heritage, one sign at a time. This podcast is designed to provide the story behind the story found on America's roadside historical signs.
Folk heroes are a common part of our historical past. No matter the profession or activity, it is common to find stories of great heroes. Some of the stories are true. Some are based on a real person, but have grown with the telling. In this episode, I want to tell the story behind the story of one such folk tale that is memorialized in several places on historical markers. The American folk tale of Paul Bunyan is a great example. There are many tales of the exploits of this famous lumberjack and his trusty blue ox named Babe. As the tale goes, Paul was born gigantic. Supposedly, it took 5 huge storks to deliver the infant to his parents in Bangor, Maine. As he grew, he drug his massive axe and formed the Grand Canyon. His giant footprints, along with those of Babe, became Minnesota's 10,000 Lake. As with most folk tales, there might be a basis of truth in its beginning. Some historians believe that Paul Bunyan's character is based in part on a French-Canadian lumberjack named Fabien Fournier. Fournier moved south to work on a logging crew in Michigan after the Civil War. Fournier is nicknamed Saginaw Joe. He was described as over 6 feet tall in a time when most men were an average of 5 feet. And perhaps most remarkable of all, he was said to have had a full set of teeth. I guess that would be remarkable for the time and the occupation. The sad end of Fournier, or Saginaw Joe, was that in November of 1875, he was murdered in a wild lumber town of Bay City, Michigan. There was a sensational trial, but his accused killer was acquitted. But the tales of Saginaw and his rough-and-tumble life, along with his prowess as a lumberjack, continued to grow. The tales of the character Paul Bunyan were first printed in 1904 by William B. Loghead. Loghead used Paul Bunyan in a series of promotional pamphlets for the Red River Lumber Company beginning in 1916. Over time, Paul Bunyan became a beloved figure in children's books and a symbol for tourism, with giant statues of him and Babe appearing across the United States. I recall a short film by Walt Disney that was first released in 1958. Part of the Disney film included a song written by George Bruns and Tom Adair and performed by the Mellow Men. Here's the words and chorus for the first verse. North America was a great big land with a great job to be done, a job that needed a great big man. Paul Bunyan was the one. Hey, Paul! Hey, Paul! Paul Bunyan! Paul Bunyan! He's 63 axe handles high, with his feet on the ground and his head in the sky. Hey, Paul! Hey, Paul! Paul Bunyan! Paul Bunyan! Paul Bunyan! Paul Bunyan! Well, as you can imagine, Disney's story version differed a lot from Loghead's version. According to the imagination of Disney writers, following a violent storm off the coast of Maine, a lumberjack named Cal McNabb spots a giant cradle on the beach. Now, in the story, there's no mention of where the cradle might have come from. But in the cradle was a giant baby boy. The town adopted the boy and named him Paul Bunyan. One Christmas, the town gave Paul a double-bladed axe to help chop down timber. Paul's work cleared land for the town to grow. But soon Paul was too big for it and decided to move out west. Well, as he goes, Paul helps clear land for farmers in the Midwest. Then during a blizzard, Paul rescued a giant frozen ox that had turned blue from the cold. Paul adopts the ox and names him Babe. During the following spring, Paul and Babe's footprint through the snow filled up with water and became known as Minnesota's land of 10,000 Lake. Well, that part's in common with other tales. Paul eventually clears the trees from North Dakota and South Dakota. He digs the Missouri River to float the logs to the sawmills. He also built Pikes Peak as a lookout. He created the Grand Tetons while playing rough with Babe, and made Yellowstone Falls so he could take a shower. He was quite a character. But that wasn't the end of the story. As Paul worked in the American West, he meets a slick salesman who challenged him to a contest against a steam-powered chainsaw and a steam-powered train to transport the logs. The winner would be proclaimed to have used superior ways, and the loser would have to leave. Paul accepts the challenge, declaring that nothing could replace him or Babe. As Paul and Babe struggled against Joe and his steam-powered devices, the piles of lumber grew. At the end of the contest, Paul and Babe's pile was 240 feet tall. But Joe's and his steam tools were 240 and 1/4 inch. Sadly, Joe was crowned as the winner of the contest. True to his word, Paul and Babe left. Some say they went to Alaska, and that the aurora borealis is just Paul and Babe tussling in the snow. Well, I remember as a little boy being so sad because Paul and Babe lost and had to move away. Well, certainly as tales go, there is no tale taller than Paul Bunyan and his blue ox Babe. Well, friends, there you have it. A story behind the story from America's historical signs and markers. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to subscribe and continue listening as we bring more episodes about the rich heritage of our great nation. Please share this podcast with others. If you have interesting stories about historical signs and markers, email me at americanhistoricalmarkers@gmail.com. Maybe your story behind the story will be featured. I'm your host, Dave Layton, and thank you for listening, and safe travels.